I've got a couple of bops here in studio. I have to say I am a huge fan. Craftwork there and the robots from way back in the day. So look, as it happened yesterday, the 6th was National Tech Day. So we thought, look, this week let's pick up on that with a very important agenda, because it could be an interesting year, specifically that news with Teresa that we had there overnight about Ernst Young. Of course, look, let's be honest, we're not special in this sense. Pretty much everywhere on earth has computers and AI and a tech and a digital sector. I remember the first decent computers on the internet coming here. Clumsy looking things. Then the small shops evolved around that, like Jerry Mallett's. Jerry could actually fix your computer in Clyde Street. Google it. I bet there's very few of you know where Clyde Street is. Then the small companies, remember ComCubed, and then as early as the 90s, significant companies again with the eventual global reach, like Singularity, were being set up by local entrepreneur Porrig Canavan. Others followed, including, of course, the Learning Pool, co-founded by my studio guest, Mary McKenna. So where are we now? It is a big agenda. McGee has stated huge intention this past couple of months going forward with regard to robotics, and the new £16 million artificial intelligence centre. That's staff. That's not talk. That's happening. That's there. The city date, the council and Stormont ministers have given their blessing to all of that. Interestingly too, a couple of weeks back, Alchemy founder John Harkin announced that he would be taking the plunge. Alchemy will be moving lock, stock and 150 well-paid staff as the first anchor tenants in those two massive modern office blocks at Dales Corner, just off Everington Square. They've lain empty for ages and everybody's going, oh, roll the eyes. Well, that's changing as well. All change for inner BT47. So look, for the next wee while, let's talk about all things digital, Derry, Strabane and 2025. Delighted to have such a brilliant panel here. With me are the Alchemy founder, Waterside man John Harkin, the founder of AwakenHub. That's a massive network for women founders, specifically Mary McKenna, MBE. Professor Curran, no stranger, the Professor of Cybersecurity at the Ulster University at McGee, and regular Radio Foil contributor Katherine Rowlandson, who co-founded Kippie, a local startup, quote, mad about games, making and playing them. Good to have you all here. Good to see you all.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for braving the weather. John, I was going to start at the beginning, but let's start at the end. A very interesting announcement overnight. I know you don't have an official position necessarily on it, but when Ernst Young suddenly go, yeah, Everington's the place for us, as you decided a couple of months ago, stuff that's happening there.
Yeah, I think Everington Square area is, in my opinion and in the board's opinion, the place to be. The feedback from our staff is they're very excited. It's got great connections. They don't need to worry about driving to work anymore. Some of them are going to get the train up from the Coleraine area and the Causeway Coast. Some of them are going to take buses, cycle. We've got a big cycle sort of initiative, and there's great facilities there for that sort of thing.
The visual in that, it's almost like you see in the brochures, this is what the new town of the future will look like. You know, here, look at the lovely cycle lane and the train arriving beside the work and nobody in cars. But that's actually starting to actually happen. Yeah, really. And you're an early adopter.
Yeah, and we took the top floor, which is a fantastic setup. I mean, you know, very high ceilings, glass, balcony. The whole setup and the design is fantastic that we've come up with. So it's futuristic, it's modern, and everyone's very excited about it.
Mary, listen, as I say, Learning Pool, many startups, you're an angel investor and all that. That timeline, that's the timeline I remember. Is that the timeline you remember in terms of things actually happening here?
Yeah, I mean, I've been working in Derry now, Mark, for 21 years this year, and the scene today is very, very different from how it was when I arrived here in 2003. You know, back then there was dominance from the FDIs that we all know about, and a lot of people that you met in your day-to-day interactions with people were people that had tech jobs, but they commuted to Belfast for those jobs. They went, you know, they got up in the morning early and they drove up that awful road that we used to have to Belfast and came home again.
But that foreign direct investment, all that stuff in the John Hume years, the Boston Adventures, you know, DuPont coming here, we were so, and still are to a degree, sort of corporately dependent.
And remember all the call centres we used to have, like Learning Pool's early hires were all from the call centres. You know, people that had jobs in the call centres and couldn't really see a career path. And so I suppose Learning Pool and companies like John's that have come into the city have given young people a reason how they can stay here and still build a career. That's really, really important if we're going to develop the Northwest region.
Let's open up the conversation. Just give me your position in a nutshell. I've invited you here, I think, with that broad remit that I've just been reading out there. In a nutshell, are we kidding ourselves that 2025 is a turning point? People give off about this program talking about changing points, and this is and we've been promised. In a nutshell, Mary, with all of that politic, all of that academia and the private sectors we're touching on as well, do you sense an optimism about 25? In a word, I'll go down the line.
I'm an optimist because I'm an entrepreneur, so I'm going to say yes, 100%.
John, obviously.
Completely, yeah. I mean, our hires this year is another 50 people. We're trying to grow as rapidly as possible, and I think what I see around us is lots of other companies doing the same thing.
Yeah. Katherine, your sense of the coming year?
I'm an optimist too. So I'll say yes. Things are difficult in the gaming industry at the minute. There's no point pretending they're not. But I do think that hopefully the Northwest, this could be a turning point.
Yeah. What's that all about for you? I mean, many staff have you now?
Three.
Yeah.
Well, nearly four.
But there's so many companies. There's so many companies like that.
Yes, absolutely. And I mean, we have about 500 kids who pass through our doors every year. So there's a growing acceptance, I think, amongst educators and parents that there's more to gaming and animation, to creative digital, than just sitting in front of a screen when they should be outside frolicking in fields or something. It's a real career path, and that there are real possibilities within Northern Ireland.
Kevin, you're inside the machine, of course, inside the university, and I know I wouldn't compromise you on any of that. You're an employee, but what do you see thus far? The post-COVID thing. There's a buy-in here from medium size. I mean, you've got Katherine as an SME, John as a medium. I mean, he's not the Grand Canyon yet, but we're starting to sort of go, aye. Well, what are your thoughts about the prospects potentially for 2025 if all of those players start to go, yep?
Very much positive. You're going to start to see the Strand Road developing, with the Cedric Centre and our medical school there being built right beside the council offices again. That piece of land's been vacant for 15, 20 years. Yeah. So that's positive again. And also again, I mean, of course, it's very difficult to predict the future. I'm reminded of the saying that he who predicts the future is a fool, even if proven correct by chance later. But the network effect is very important again. So the likes of Alchemy and Learning Pool again, because the most useless item ever invented was the first telephone, because it did.
There was no second one.
Exactly. And then the second one came, then the fourth, the 8th, the 16th, 30th. Do you see the network effect? Yeah. So again, that's where companies cluster. So again, that the more companies, and the initial ones, the ones who fight hardest at the start, like Alchemy and Learning Pool, and as you say correctly, the Singularity I would have associated with one of the main founders here in the city of a computer company. Porrig's.
I mean, Porrig's a very modest man.
He is. He is indeed.
That became a company of global standing.
Porrig's very, very clever. In fact, and a friend of mine who used to teach at St. Columns said that Porrig was the smartest pupil he ever taught. Again, so no, Porrig Singularity did wonderful.
But folks, just among yourselves, Mary, firstly, maybe, are we kidding ourselves that Derry is going to be this new sort of, city in the sun digitally? Will we ever have the connectivity of Belfast, Dublin, Galway? These places seem to me to be so far ahead because they were so far ahead and pioneering with the decanting of their universities to the second, third and fourth cities. We're only starting to think about that, Mary. So what are Derry's real prospects in the daytime and, in the cold light of day?
So I think we should stop comparing ourselves to other places, because that time has passed. We're in a post-COVID world and opportunities are completely different today. You can start a global business today with an AI and a couple of people, and you can build that to $100 million annual recurring revenue. People are saying that that's possible to do with a team of 30 people. So, I would really like to see Derry getting out from underneath the shadow of Belfast and starting to think about doing things differently for where we're placed in the world geographically.
And what does that mean, Mary, in real terms?
Well, developing our own identity around tech that we can do here and what we're good at, and having a more formal relationship with our neighbours across the border and building a cluster in the northwest that is different from how Belfast is. People are doing this, and it's possible to scale it. I think the Ernst & Young announcement about how they're starting to decant away from the major cities is real positive.
Is that about living? Is that about, John, is that about the quality of life, wages? Is that about rent, availability of housing? We know that's an issue here. What's happening there?
I mean, what Mary sounds right in many ways. If you look at what we've built here at Alchemy, it is the largest of its type in Europe, and it's in Derry. So none of the, PwC, EY, KPMG, any of those big players don't have the same level and concentration of staff that we've developed here.
Just remind people, would you, John, in simple terms?
So we specialise in
insurance
software implementation.
Yeah.
There's a massive digital transformation going on in the insurance industry, which will carry on for another few decades, where they're replacing this ancient mainframe technology with very modern digital applications, so you can have apps on your phone and all the sorts of things that people want now. The app on your phone can measure how you're driving.
Yeah.
That can affect your insurance premium, all that type of
thing. But they can do this in Macclesfield, they can do this in Limerick, they can do this in some high-level studio in rural France. But my point is, how do you make this have geographical purchase for this place, which is I think what a lot of listeners want to see. Are we kidding ourselves?
No, I think it's the talent. The relationship that we've had with the university, Ulster University, Northwest Regional College, the Atlantic University across the border there, the folks in Belfast and Queens. We have access to fantastic talent. We got 30 grads coming in this year. Last year we had 20 grads, and for the first time 50% of them were women.
And Dublin and Belfast aren't stealing them?
No, nobody's stealing them, no. We have low levels of attrition. We're growing steadily, and we have very committed staff. And to be honest, it's cut to it. We're teaching them from scratch, basically. They get the basics at university. They understand. They've got good communication skills. They know a bit of Java programming, that sort of thing. And then we turn them, like we say, from base metal into gold. These guys give us the base product. But it's the attitude of the people.
But you go out to schools, don't you, and talk to GCSE pupils? Yes.
We do, yeah. We had Oak Grove in, and we focused on young girls there, to be honest, to see if we could tap into that market, because I don't think we still haven't got the message amongst the schools that this is a great career path.
I want to come back to you both as the sort of key founders with respect to Katherine. What are you seeing there on the ground as a smaller player, with respect, Katherine? Because you've been a pioneer in this part of the world of championing young women in particular, not only, but have you seen stuff changing there in terms of getting these young women to the front line, keeping these young women?
Yes. Yes. I mean, I still think we've a long way to go, but I think that's a societal issue rather than just a Northwest. My thing is that Derry is already producing some amazing work. So I don't know if we talked already about Hypixel, who are producing the biggest new game almost in the world.
Well, is Aaron Noxie Donaghy?
Yes.
With respect to John, might he be the biggest digital player in the Northwest?
It's slightly different field because we're talking about interactive here. So Aaron and Sean started. They didn't start Hypixel. It's a long story, but they are now CEO and COO of Hypixel. It's been bought by Riot. It's the biggest game studio in Ireland. They are making the most hotly anticipated new game in the world.
Is that the one that's been on the side of the truck, their business truck, and you're going, is that a new game, whatever? Because these things take years, don't they?
Yes, very much. They take years. And they're building a really, really fantastic game that is going to be it's going to be huge. There's no doubt about that. And we also have
just to say, Grand Theft Auto started in Dundee.
Dundee, yeah.
So you're saying you're seeing a similar principle at work with this guy?
Yes, absolutely. Dundee is now like a massive gaming capital. Loads and loads of games are built there, and it was all built off sort of the success of Rockstar who did Grand Theft Auto. But we also have like Dog Ears, who are producing content that is, it's massive. Puffin Rock is huge throughout the world. They produced Northern Ireland's first feature-length animated film, and and this is all happening, being made in Derry by Derry people, by people who grew up and went to the same schools as everybody. And we just need to be shouting about that more. I think so many people have no idea that these things are happening here.
Listen, we've a wee clip here of one of your games. Katherine, Michael, bring it up just as we're talking. It was hashtag National Video Game Day. Seems like a good day to trail our new game, hashtag Trashlands, made with students from Oak Grove College and St Bridget's College in Derry. Now, as there's a wee figure with like a pickaxe.
Yeah.
On top of squares and all the rest. We'll just hear the music. So paint the picture here first, Katherine.
So we built this with students, like you said, Oak Grove and St Bridget's. We were given the brief to look at environmental challenges, and as we always do, we try to give the students the tools to make the game, but leave as much of the decisions and the creative decisions in the students' hands. And they came up with this fantastically innovative and bit bonkers game.
And who, did they write we can hear the music. Did they write the music?
I'm trying to remember. I don't think they did. I think they found the music.
Okay.
Yeah. But I mean, music production is, of course, another part of it.
But I'm sort of trying to see what the connecting tissue is here. Those young women see the fascination of that. And are able to express themselves as young people, and guess what? They might go, I want to do this in my hometown. I might need to talk to Mary McKenna. I might need to go and have see what Alchemy.
It's about keeping people excited and positive about what digital can do. You don't have to be a mad techie to do brilliant stuff within the digital world. I mean, if we look at Elemental, I mean, neither of those founders were massive techie people, but they saw the potential that digital has, and they can go out and they can say, do you know what, I think we can do this.
Tell people about Elemental just.
Well, it probably should be Mary talking about this, to be
Mary.
fair.
I was the first person to invest any money in Elemental software.
Tell people about Elemental.
It's a fantastic business. Like Jennifer and Leanne had a vision for what they wanted to build, and they were able to draw it out on a piece of paper as big as this studio, probably, which they eventually found a techie who got it and started to build it for them, and the rest is history.
Well, people might not know the history. I just love the locality of this, because Jennifer, you're talking about, is Jennifer Neff.
Jennifer Neff.
Whose mommy is Patricia with a cafe on the quay that everybody knows. So just tell people then what happened with Elemental.
Well, they the two of them started.
And what did they do? What problem did they solve in Derry?
They built what is now the UK's biggest social prescribing platform. So when you go to the doctor, you don't always need tablets. Sometimes you need something different. And a lot of those services that people require already exist in our community, but nobody had put the two things together. So what they did was they used technology to connect people that were going to the doctors that were actually lonely or needed to lose weight or stop smoking with services that already existed in our city, but people didn't know about them or what times they were open.
So instead of weight loss tablets, you may go on, you really need to connect with this fabulous walking group that we know of around your way.
Exactly. So the doctor, instead of giving you a prescription for tablets, would give you a social prescription for you to go and join a walking club or to go out to a lunch club if you were lonely and things like that.
I get it. From both of you, if you don't mind, John, you're Waterside man, born, bred and butter. I seem to remember. Gobnaskeel, or out the back of Gobnaskeel, went away for a long time, came back with this vision for this new thing, which has grown remarkably quickly with respect to you again. Why did you not think, look, this would be easier in Dublin, this would be easier in sort of BT9 on the outskirts of Belfast somewhere?
We did do an assessment, so there was good support and a good network here that we felt would make us successful. But of course, I had the connection to my roots as well. So as
who were your people? They'll all want to know who your people were.
Well, the Harkins, my father grew up in the Lakey Road. My mother was from the Waterside. Somehow she talked him into moving to the Waterside. The Aunt Sally had the bakery in just I can't remember what you call it, just as William Street. She had a bakery in William Street that everyone used to use.
Right.
Yeah, so, there's quite a big family network there.
Yeah, so that mattered to you?
It really mattered.
That's no good in a sense unless Kevin's colleagues are producing the kind of academic and intellectual talent that you need to do your thing, and you've now 150 of them.
Well, let's be clear, we're hard-nosed businessmen that invested along with me in Alchemy, so we did a full assessment. And Invest NI did provide a chunk of training money for us where we could claim back 50% of the costs of training, which made a big difference to us as well. So, but you weren't going to get that unless the business case and the whole community business plan actually made sense. I call it the old John DeLorean effect, right? They really put you through the grinder before you can claim any money back.
Well,
so, you know, the whole...
And he claimed a few bob.
Yeah. so the whole package actually stood up. We compared it to Wales, we compared it to Scotland, we compared it to Spain. So, you know, if you actually put a business plan and you compare where the competitors are, Derry did stack up.
But Mary, you couldn't have had that confidence because this whole ambition wasn't stated. The £16 million centre, all the growth that we're hoping to see in Magee, the confidence that now comes out of Magee and all the rest. There was very little of that for you to build Learning Pool and your other enterprises on, and yet you built here. Why?
Well, Learning Pool actually started very briefly in London.
Right. You took it over, didn't you? Was it an old model?
Yeah, bought it from a government agency very quickly there. And John's story is a fantastic story, but I would always say it's far more difficult for you to get the sort of grant supports and whatever from Invest Northern Ireland if you're already here. It's very difficult to do that. If you're coming in from outside of Northern Ireland, it's a lot easier. But we quickly relocated here because the cost base is very attractive in Derry, and because there were students coming out of Magee and they were the people that we wanted to employ, and there were loads and loads of them right on our doorsteps.
And yet we know that this is what,
you know?
Kevin, I don't know if you're able to give us thoughts on this. This is what really perplexes me, because we know that by comparison, the Foyle or Magee academic base is still what, 4,000 full-time students. Limerick, Galway, they're all 15, 20 before you get to Cork, before you get to Dublin or Belfast. You know, it's still such a small, by comparison, student base. I wonder what you're seeing in terms of the evolution of what you guys do in the daytime and the emerging ambition here of the private sector.
Yeah, well, all we can do is obviously update our courses and listen to industries. And of course, every time you bring a new course in, so actually we have a new course in cybersecurity coming in 2026. And of course, what we do, the first thing we do after we get the modules together is we liaise with local industry and cybersecurity companies in that case, and we ask them, what are the skill gaps that you need? What are the things most important to you? And of course, then we devise the content as well and modify it according to that. Okay, we always look for industry feedback. I mean, it's crazy to go out there because industry differs so much from academia. So we always try to deliver again. So that's just one case.
And I was going to say that's no good to John. He's insurance, but of course, John, you need cybersecurity. You can't have people pinching your stuff.
Yeah, we don't build the software. We implement it. So we do need a level of awareness, but it is a specialist area.
Well, and I know there's a big startup, at least one in the area of cybersecurity. But that then, you would maybe go to Mary and say, Mary, I need good local people here who understand the culture. Mary, I need a wee company of cybersecurity to protect what I'm doing in Alchemy. Or Learning Pool. I can see how these sectors speak to each other. You know, sometimes you seem siloed. You know what I mean? He does insurance. Mary's the Learning Pool woman. Do you know that way?
Well, look, the bottom line is we all have something in common, which is we need talent to fuel the growth. And I think we have that in common. And I think you need Derry and the surrounding areas to be a great place to live so that our folks hang around here and they've got somewhere to spend their disposable income. But, you know, you asked the question about housing and what it's like, you know, for our staff to live here. At our Christmas party, I had a young guy that we hired 18 months ago come up to me and say, and this is the sort of attitude these people have that we've hired. He said, thank you so much for starting Alchemy in Derry. We've just bought our first house and we're just settling down.
That's a nice moment.
And, you know, if you look at the people that joined us 6 years ago, and they took a real bet, let's be honest. I mean, I'm standing in a hotel room saying to a bunch of people, come and join this startup called Alchemy. You'll have a great career and everything else. And a bunch of them, and actually a few of them had heard me on your show.
Good.
And come to the thing because they heard me on your show, or their parents had heard me on your show.
Good.
And they signed up. Now those people are on a salary now, 6 years later, of between 75 grand, 55 to 75, 80 grand.
Which is a very, very good salary for
Which
Derry.
in Derry is a good salary, you know.
Is that a Dublin salary, John?
It's not far off, but you can afford to buy a house here.
Of course, you can live here. Yeah.
There's like a few of them bought a house on their 30 grand salaries that are now on 75 grand.
Yeah.
So their disposable income is significant. You know,
Katherine, do you know what I was thinking about there when I was thinking about your late dad? Because I know you and your sis are, sisters of the parish and others. Remind me, was your dad was he non-smoking but advocated for the right of smokers? And did it time and time again on this radio station?
Yes.
And he was an academic of prowess in his own right.
He's a big believer in personal freedoms.
Well, but he was remarkable. He was such a characterful man. What are your observations of that? Because you were sort of reared in the academic thing, and hearing what John and Mary are saying about the academic journey, especially higher level education. What are you seeing there? What are you experiencing? In terms of this place, because you could have went across the water very easily, couldn't you? But
I did, but I kept coming home again. And again, that's family. And I love the city. And I think we have such great sort of potential here. And Dad always saw that. He always saw the potential in his students and the potential of Derry. I mean, he did lecture in sort of business and tourism, but it wasn't. We didn't grow up in a very sort of business oriented household. He was much more interested in reading about things than doing them. But no, it was generally speaking just the sort of belief in young people, and give them the tools and the opportunities, provide them here in Derry, and hopefully we can keep the talent here.
What's your honest thought on what we are seeing then, those sort of bigger themes? Is it enough, Katherine? I speak to some professional people who are going, look, it's always so damn slow in this part of the world. You talk about something and maybe you see it in 6 years' time. The A6, we all aged visibly by the time the A6 from it started till it actually opened.
Well, we have private companies in the city who are keen to promote the city as well. I'm going to go back to Dog Ears and Hypixel. They want to be able to employ local people. They want to connect with young people in the city. They want the training to take place here. We would love some sort of creative digital hub in the city. And, sometimes you need to make things happen outside of government forces.
Hold on, let me stop you right there, because a certain lady to the left of you promised me a digital hub on the banks of the Foyle about 6 years ago. What happened there, Mary? Because you were inspired, I seem to remember, by Limerick, was it?
Oh no, I saw something in Vienna.
No, but it was somewhere in Ireland. You'd went down and you'd see them all working together.
Galway's Portishead.
Yeah.
Portishead in Galway. So you asked us to think about some wishes today. So I have a wish that maybe ties together what some of the guys have been saying. So I think what we need is... I said earlier we should have our own identity, but I'm going to make a bit of a comparison here with Oxford. We need something to bridge between academia and industry. We need somebody or a group of people that make those linkages between the students and all their fantastic ideas and help them commercialise that by making the introductions and the bridge into industry.
In the interim, isn't that falling to Stephen Kelly and the McGee
Stephen
task
Kelly's
force?
certainly a great start.
He has them all at the same table. Yeah.
But I think we need some more behind Stephen that are going to do a bit more of the doing of that, as entrepreneurs in residence perhaps, or that type of idea.
Okay.
And then I think we need a proper accelerator in the city, not a co-working space, a proper accelerator that has, as part of the city deal, a venture studio attached to it, so that there is some investment there for people that are starting businesses. Because as you know, Mark, I work with a lot of startups and a lot of women particularly that are starting businesses here in the Northwest and in Donegal. And the crunch point comes when they're ready to start raising investment, because we don't have an infrastructure for that here. They end up having to go to Dublin or Elemental, raise their money in London.
But when you say it's not there,
No?
when people say, well, just take off, the cliches I get are, sure, take over one of those old shirt factories, put your application in to invest in Northern Ireland. What are the actual barriers, Mary, that you're referring to?
So who's going to do that?
John did.
But for something that is for everybody rather than for you as a person. It's easy for you to build a company or something yourself, but when you're starting to do something that's for the good of everybody,
you're talking about a greenhouse.
It needs to be a different type of group that does that.
Right.
Yeah.
So okay. So under that roof would be people like yourself, students of Katherine's, visiting academics like Professor Curran, all of you.
Yeah, all of us. But all of us and more. We need to build a coalition of the willing.
So why is that absent? That seems to me a bit obvious? Why would that be absent, Catherine?
It's a public-private partnership, really, and it's.
Do you agree with Mary?
Oh, very much, absolutely. I think she's completely right. We need to have a centralised, localised spot where we can show off all the amazing work that's being done and present like really good role models to young people and say, look, these people are in Derry, they're doing amazing things.
But you see, I think the problem with so much of your work is that it's invisible. People talk about the hub at Ebrington. There's a thing there, you see hub and you go, and that's it. You never see people come and go because they're working in there. It's full. I believe it's hugely successful. It's operating, as the vision. There's John, but this work's invisible. It's behind computer screens, and we don't see the footfall, is what I'm saying.
And that's what we noticed. That's what we noticed when we've got in the young people in the schools, like the girls from Oak Grove. They really hadn't got a clue that this path was open to them. Some of them, I mean, the feedback from that, teachers told us they went back and changed their choices for their GCSEs.
Wow.
Haven't visited the Alchemy offices, got a feel for what the work is, met some of the people, talked about the salaries. They really wanted to talk. 13-year-olds really wanted to talk money, no messing. And they just completely changed what they were doing.
Mary?
But when I talk to groups of school children, the first thing I say to them is, who in the room wants to earn a lot of money? And all their hands shoot up straight away. If we wanted to fix this in Northern Ireland, honestly, the way to do it is a national advertising campaign around jobs in tech aimed at the parents.
There's something.
And teachers.
Right, okay. There's something a wee bit sad. I didn't feel like that when I was their age. I wanted to run about and go to gigs and stuff. Has it really come down to that thing, Mary? The status of the job title and the 70 grand a year, and is that it?
Yeah.
When you bring in people to talk to the students during Global Entrepreneurship Week, the first thing that they ask them, and this is not just the boys, this is the girls as well, they put their hand up and they'll ask the person, what sort of a car do you drive? Yeah. Kids are really, really commercial.
But does that not speak to a corporate reality that a lot of people, all of you, maybe don't want to see here because they see what's happened with the ignition of the academic sector and the accommodation associated with in Belfast, and it's a red brick jungle. And Belfast, you're going like, where's Belfast? I don't remember Belfast like this. Kevin, where were you going to take us there?
Well, let's not underestimate the importance of the train station and the train routes.
Right.
And that's why Ebrington is a wonderful location. It's 3 minutes from the train. A lot of employees were moving to hybrid work now. You wouldn't believe
like
how
John.
many. Yes, and a lot of his employees will be coming on that train from Belfast, from Portadown, from Curran, that area. It really opens up again. So, again, what the government can do again is just to put investment into the rail service again. And
it's a very old-fashioned model for a very modern agenda.
It is.
Well, we're talking about the digital frontier, and you're happiest with the train.
The train could be very important again because a lot of stuff will come in through that way as well.
And maybe they'll buy a wee house if they built another station at Ballykelly, and maybe if they keep on building wee stations, suddenly those old cottages get snapped up.
I've never got a correct answer to why there isn't a train stop at the airport.
Well, the train line actually goes over the runway. The plane has to watch it doesn't hit the train.
It makes no sense. No one can give me a reasonable, rational answer why there's not a train stop at the airport.
Well, John, just could I give you a wee heads up because I've got a brilliant one which maybe would have come up as any other business on your last executive meeting. I went back to London recently for the first time since way before the pandemic and made a point of flying out of Derry, even though it was £100 too expensive. Forget it, I'm over it. You can now, from your front door at Dale's Corner, get a bus to the front door of Derry Airport for how much?
No idea.
£4.
Wow. And
I thought, great. It's the end of my street. So if you're flying your executives, and just to let you know, they can get a bus from the front door to your front door for £4.
Yeah. It's very impressive. I'd have to say we've had an incredible number of visitors come to Derry. Partners, clients, potential clients. And I thought one of my worries moving back to Derry, being the guy that volunteered to move back here of the investors and to be the face of Alchemy, and the original founder, was that I would lose contact with all my connections around the world. And in fact, they all come to see me here. which is phenomenal. They fly in the two Belfast airports, or the Derry airport, or the Dublin airport. You know,
and what happens there? Is that because you've took them to Greenan, or you've took them?
No,
to what has happened there?
They come. As I said, Alchemy is the biggest of its kind in Europe, and these companies either come. We've got a new client, so they're coming week after next for 3 days, and they're bringing a few of their people. They meet our people. They sit down. They meet the city. They get a flavour of the culture. We've got clients coming in from the States. We've got our big partner Guidewire have visited us a few times. We lay on stuff for them, but the number of folks that's taken up rooms in either the Bishopsgate or now they really like the Ebrington Hotel.
But maybe they like it because it's not Belfast and Dublin
They do.
that are selling their granny.
They really do, and they've discovered.
I don't enjoy Dublin anymore. Don't enjoy Belfast.
No, and they've discovered it's easy to get here. Honestly, once they get past the barrier that Derry's hard to
Up
get
there.
to, but once they actually do the journey. And they go, actually, it's that easy to get to.
Katherine, speak to that thing. I mean, if you were to grow, whatever 25 or 26 holes for you, do you recognise that culture that Mary touched on there? It's about 80 grand in a fancy German car. Surely there's something about living here that we all, as Blowens, I mean, Kevin's a Blowen, I'm a Blowen, but that gets under the fingernails and you're going, I'm actually quite pleased this is an undiscovered place in some ways.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
and I think there is something about being sort of the plucky underdog that we quite like here in Derry. But yeah, the flip side of that is that maybe we don't shout about our achievements.
But you know what I mean? What about that culture? The kids these days, for whatever it is, computer culture, whatever, it's about big money and fancy lifestyles.
I think that's partly because everybody's really feeling the pinch right now. I mean, when I was growing up, I just always thought that everything was going to get better and better, and that people would houses would always be worth more, and that things would cost less, and that we would all be better off. But at the minute, I mean, everybody is
It's through the roof.
Yeah, everybody is struggling, and kids pick up on this from parents. If your parents are worried about how they're going to pay next month's mortgage, then the kids are going to think, well, no, I'm going to make damn sure that I can afford a nice big house and a nice big car.
That's
Yeah,
brilliant.
I mean, if
John.
I could chime in, I'm not for a second saying there's a greedy attitude or chasing money attitude, but I do think they know they should be getting a fair whack for the work they do. And they do know that they want to be able to support a decent lifestyle. But I wouldn't say they're greedy. I mean, we had a tough year there in 2023. The whole industry did. In the first year, we didn't pay bonuses, But we kept hiring and we kept promoting. And the staff, we didn't have a high turnover of staff. They understood what was happening in the industry. They could see we were still investing. The past year, we've turned it around and started making decent money again, but the whole industry shifted. We stayed focused, and the staff didn't disappear and go, I didn't get a bonus, so I'm leaving. There was no sign of that. They could see we're in this for the long run.
Maybe Derry's a nice place to live and a nice place to feel a belonging. I feel
It really is.
that
There's a sense of community.
There is a belonging here that I don't feel in other cities that we've mentioned. Maybe others that we haven't.
So here's a weird thing at our Christmas party. It's happened 2 years running. We get a great band in, right? And everyone, as soon as the meal finishes, they go. Ebrington's got this fantastic big lounge area as well. They all go to somewhere where they can have a chat and a catch up.
Right.
And the dance floor is empty. And I have to go to the band and say, don't be offended. They're just trying to catch up because they love talking to each other.
Do they not do that in the kitchen?
Love doing that.
And they not do that on their break? And
Yeah,
whatnot?
they do that all the time. But these are people.
But they're connected, you're saying.
Don't forget, they only come into the office two days a week. Now, many of them go to client sites and visit. Many of them work remotely. They hang out together and get back together. They're on different projects.
And you're sending people around the world to do bespoke projects. Remind me, Joe, are you still insuring the Premier League? Was that one of your gigs or was that another company?
No, that wasn't us.
Sorry, but I made an absolute mistake there.
Yeah, don't worry.
Forget for number going on.
No,
on
the
your
travel.
actual research
I have
notes.
to be honest. Since lockdown and all, the travel's reduced dramatically. Mary said you can work remotely now. You can run a company from Derry.
These services. West Donegal.
Don't forget, we have no clients in Ireland, right? All our clients are around the world:
Right.
UK, Europe, America, Canada. We're we're a global business.
Wishes.
Outside of Derry, we
Mary
know
has
Irish
touched on that whole
customers.
thing. She wants to see a sort of a greenhouse for the academic sector to speak to the tech sector and all the rest. Any other thoughts on wishes? And I know it's a simplistic sort of a thing, but in terms of your yearnings as players in the sector, because we only, there's only so many years you get this. I mean, that's my point about the A5. I wonder will I even live to see the A5 or live to get a train via Strabane to Dublin, such as this part of the world. The Japanese put these things up in a fortnight. Yearnings, Katherine, going forward as a proud local woman. We were asking about New Year's wishes, if you want to call them, hashtag that.
Hashtag New Year's wishes. Yeah, I'm going to go back to what I said again. Sort of more visibility around the creative digital content that's being made here. More training, more opportunities. Creative digital is huge, and it's so important for so many jobs in the future.
I guess, Kevin, you've got to do what your Vice Chancellor says, but you're the professor of that, all that sort of cyber stuff. Where do you want to see this going forward? Not just internally for you guys, but with the public and the policy people and the private sector. What would you like to see visible in the next couple of years, Kevin?
Well, again, more great companies, and one I neglected to mention is Meta Compliance.
Meta Compliance, of course.
Robert O'Brien, it's a wonderful company.
Robbie out in, he was in Skeg last time I looked at.
Robbie's fantastic. He's right beside Learning Pool again.
And he does the cybersecurity that you were talking about.
And actually, one of the companies you mentioned at the start, I was the first employee.
Comcubed.
32 years ago, I walked into the Rosemount Resource Centre. I was taking a year out from college.
Was that Tommy McCord?
It's Tommy McCord.
I remember that.
Everyone, there was about 6 people there, and everyone he knew, and I thought, my goodness, they were like brothers, and I thought, well, I'm the last person as a blow-in going to get this job. Nothing to do with computers. I walked in, all they did was ask me about computers, and we ended up setting up Comcubed in Bishop Street, and then obviously...
And you had no academic intention at that time. You were we ran about as in our teens. You were just computers on the brain. Yeah. It's remarkable, Mary, the way life's journey, because it is mappable. None of these things just happen, but where there is will, as Kevin's personal story tells us, there is a way. And I think where I'm trying to get us to here by way of towards a conclusion is there is a destination for this place if we have the courage, to create it, to map it, to actualise it.
Yeah, but I think we do need somebody. What we talked about earlier, somebody does need to start putting the pieces together. I have more wishes. I would like to, we have a massive diaspora here from the Northwest that stretches from Philadelphia right across to Singapore. I would like companies that are starting up in the town to have better access to those executives that work in those big companies that could employ their SME or their startup and bring them into their supply chain.
Are they in your black book?
Some of them are.
Well, give them
Some
a
of
ring.
them are in John's.
Yeah.
Some of them are in everybody else's, but we don't have any way of bringing them all together.
Who's the lead agency for this incubator that you want to see, that both you and Katherine have agreed would be a game changer?
Well, if I tell you who
not the person, if you don't want
to. Would go to, you're going to hear me groaning as well, because obviously the place that it would be Invest in I, but
Invest in I. Well, yeah, there's been questions asked about Invest in I in the past. Some have said we've seen, positivity.
John Healy's in there as chairman. He's a Derry man.
Yeah. John?
He'll make things happen. I mean, Invest in I hear get a hard time.
It was the thing that they were too Belfast-centric.
We get asked tough questions, but we had all the answers. And so they gave us a decent grant, and they've supported us ever since. So I have absolutely no complaints as an entrepreneur that's set up. Now, you said maybe it's because I'm coming in from the outside.
But you're not, you're waterside, man.
But I had no complaints. They asked me tough questions. I had to put together detailed numbers, but I had them all at my fingertip.
John, in a word, if you can, how come so few of you, and Mary, down the years, how come so few of you have done it by comparison to other places? It is happening.
Yeah.
But you would agree it's happening slowly, too slowly.
Yeah, I think it is too slowly. I mean, I have to be very open and honest.
Okay.
I never imagined coming back to live in Derry. It hadn't crossed my mind, right? I was brought because I was offered to play in the Irish Open Pro-Am in Port Stewart. And I thought, right, I'll come back for that, because I'm golf mad. And it was Invest in I that set that up.
Right.
And they brought me back, and I did a little tour, and I met some of the unis, and I met some of the people. And that's what got me interested again in moving back and setting up a business, because I was going to set up a business.
Are you a golfer?
So it was quite a clever sort of little ploy to tweak, because I'd lived all around the world and I'd sort of lost touch a wee bit. I had one sister that still lived here. Now since then, two of the daughters of that sister have come back and worked for me and moved back to Derry.
We need to just, by way of caveats, we're never going to cover all the ground. Cybersecurity, I'm briefed in Northern Ireland is the number one investment location globally now for US cybersecurity. Technology, more than 1,200 companies, including 100 global tech leaders, are now established in Northern Ireland. FinTech then, global financial services institutions, including Citi, CME Group, Visa, they're all players. This is stuff I would never have imagined 10 years ago. Legal, for professional legal services, Northern Ireland now offers a ready pool of culturally comparable, highly educated talent. 3 of the big 4 accountancy guys are already here. Before we get to green economy players, we're fast becoming a green economy, but despite maybe the lack of politics on that, I mean, we're becoming a player there by way of engineering and tech as well. Before we ever get to medical, life and health sciences, which we know McGee has stated ambition with our medical school, Seatrick, Altnagelvin, and the new ambition for the Strand Road as well.
Would it be crazy to do a comparison
John,
with the shirt factory days and how it was the centre of an industry in the world? Okay, it's a different skill set and it's a different
or whiskey.
pay.
I think sometimes we had Derry at one stage. I think it had about 12,000 whiskey workers.
Yeah, I mean, is there a tap into the imagination that says, okay, but these are highly paid jobs, you know, that could make a difference in the world for sure, and the skills were there. The talent was there. So,
Mary, a final word, just to maybe draw our conversation to a close. I mean, a sense of optimism, a guarded optimism in the ranks today. And I suppose when your money's on the table, it's your money. Guarded, I suppose, is the first priority, is it?
My final word will just really be about the environment that's here in the city. There's an awful lot to like about Derry as a location. You know, you've got proximity to the Donegal beaches, you've got a low cost base for your business, you've got really well-educated, ambitious people to come and work for you. And it is a lot different from how it was 10 or 20 years ago. You know, the tech scene's a lot younger, it's a lot less formal, it's a lot more female, if I might say that. You know, it's people that are interested in having a successful career and going places.
And living here. We hope.
Here, yeah.
I've really enjoyed your company, and thank you for your time on an awful day and 4 very busy people, no doubt. Here in studio, folks, our panel today talked about the digital sort of frontier, which is a digital frontier everywhere, but what's it going to look like here in the Great Northwest? My thanks to the Alchemy founder, Waterside man John Harkin, the founder of AwakenHub, angel investor Mary McKenna, Professor Kevin Curran, of course, the Professor of Cybersecurity at the Ulster University at McGee, and finally a musical choice from Katherine Rowlandson, who co-founded Kippie. I love this, and it's so cheesy, it's brilliant.